Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. I'm your host, Catherine Llewellyn. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. I'm delighted today to welcome Alexander Dunlop. Alexander is a sacred strategy guide for the game of life. He guides ambitious visionaries who are seeking fulfillment beyond achievement. He's the best-selling author of Play Your Cards Right, A Sacred Guide to Life on Earth, a Harvard graduate, and a former Wall Street consultant who has zigzagged through a paradigm-shifting spiritual quest, from evangelical Christianity to Roman Catholic seminary, from psychedelic drugs and plant medicine ceremonies to becoming a Swami in India, and eventually finding the meaning of his life in, of all places, a deck of playing cards. You can find Alexander on thesourcecards.com, and that will be in the show notes as well. So, Alexander, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk with you.
Thank you. Well, me too. So, would you like to when we did the pre-call, one of the themes that came up, which I actually really resonate with because it's one of my favorite themes as well, was this theme of that life is actually a game. Would you like to kick off by sharing with the listeners how you first kind of clicked with that idea of life is a game? How did that come into your life as a real thing?
Well, it's a fantastic question, and I would say it's still one that is clicking in, which is to say the programming conditioning runs quite deep from the biblical monotheistic traditions, where the idea that life is a game, to me, transcends the dogmatic approach, the monocratic approach, I would call it, where it's one way or no way. Like, if you're not with us, you're against us. If you're not doing it our way, then you're going to hell. That monocratic authoritarian approach, which we see rippled out into our political structures, that people just assume that that is the way life is structured. Life is organized in that way. That's a fundamental assumption that arises within the biblical monotheistic tradition. I'm not sure if it's the cause of it. It might even go further back than the tradition itself. The idea that life is a game is a complete contrast to that. It's that we are literally playing our lives, as opposed to moral injunctions of right and wrong, that you should do this or you should do that. It's very much to see it that we are playing like children at play, if we want to borrow Jesus's injunction to become like children to enter the kingdom of heaven. That's, I think, what he was pointing to. He didn't have this system of knowledge to kind of back up that claim that we're going to get into on this call today. This is a long way of saying it's still working on me. It's still clicking within me. It's still seeping into my bones, the idea that we really can be at play here and enjoy our lives as a game, that we are not being judged as moral failures if we don't do this or that. It's rather that we may just not have as much fun. We may not be as fully satisfied or fulfilled or happy in the way that if you were playing a game with friends and it wasn't going well, you might say, well, let's play a different game, or let's try that again. It isn't like, well, we didn't do that well, so now we're going to hell. There isn't that idea of punishment. So it's been clicking in for some time now. When I first discovered these cards now 14 years ago, and as you mentioned, my background coming out of being in training to be a priest and being a born-again Christian, that programming does run deep in my own psyche, and I think for humanity in general. It's liberating, ultimately, to see that life is a game. I also, when I've felt into it deeply in my own meditations, I've found it terrifying somehow, and that might be why there's a resistance there in our human psyche, because somehow it's so liberating and so freeing that it can feel groundless, that there isn't that, again, authoritarian dogma at the bottom that we've grown accustomed to. There's real freedom to play your life, enjoy your life, and play it.
I totally get that. I just got a memory while you were talking of playing Monopoly as a child. Have you played Monopoly?
I used to play all games, absolutely,
Right.
yes.
So Monopoly, I think many people have heard of it. And we used to play Monopoly, and we used to just basically ravage each other in the game. You know, like I'm gonna take all your money, I'm gonna take all your properties and stuff like that. And we had a fabulous time doing it. We were able to, because we were playing,
Okay.
and there was, you know, if I was the shoe, I was always the shoe. If I was the shoe and the shoe got sort of thrown off the board because it was bankrupt, it what didn't matter. You know, so it reminded me of that freedom of
Yeah.
placing, where there isn't actually but you play all in nevertheless. You're not just
You're
uncaring.
and the interesting thing psychologically is that when we're at play, we're the most fully engaged and the most fully present. There is a presence because we're fully in it. We're excited because that's another aspect of the game. It's exciting. It's fun. It holds our attention. So we are fully embodied, fully present in the moment. And that's what also happens when we look at our lives as a game. There is a presence that arises in that. And I sometimes say to my clients, life is a game. It's a game we've all taken way too seriously, but it is a game. And we could look at it as a riddle to be solved or a puzzle to be solved, like a game in that sense, and look at it like it's a mystery to unravel for ourselves. And it's all a mindset and a heart set and an awareness that positions us to get the most out of life. And as I said, it's still something I'm learning for myself as well. I'm still a student of this awareness, let's say, to really look at life as a game to play. And the mantra that I came to for myself, which I share with other people as well, it's as much for me as for anyone, is to live your life like it's your favorite game to play. To let that be the operating assumption, foundational assumption of everything we do, to live our lives like it's our favorite game to play. Imagining as a child your favorite game to play that you could play it all afternoon and not get tired. You wouldn't need to eat. You wouldn't even want to sleep. You'd just be so excited to play this game all day and so fulfilling and satisfying. And then the next day you want to wake up and do it all over again. That is the mindset for us to live our best lives, is to operate that way.
Beautiful. So you mentioned the cards, in alongside what we're talking about. Did your connection with that life is a game happen at the same time as finding the cards?
It did, but it took a beat or two. When I first found the cards, I was very skeptical, even though it resonated deeply. I'm Harvard graduate. I studied philosophy. A very rational, logical mind. It took some time for me to test the cards to see that it's more than just a parlor trick, more than just a fun party game. Oh, what's your birthday? Oh, your birth card is this, because that's how I found it. And then I learned it within a fortune telling system. And I wasn't interested in trying to predict the future of when you're going to have a tall, dark, handsome man walk into your life, or when you're going to have good money cards coming for you next year. I wasn't interested in that. From perhaps my training in theology school, I was very much interested in what is the nature of reality? What is this that we're here to do and be? What's the ontology of our being? It took me some time to test the cards to see that they were A, accurate, and B, reliable. And if reliable, then true, at the level that we can say something is true, that is a symbol, that is a concept, because that's what the cards are. The cards are a conceptual reference of the energy field that we are incarnated in. So it's a tool to sharpen our awareness to help us see what is, what's present all around us all the time. It took me a little time, again, to unravel the conditioning and the programming. I think I was also only open to it through my skeptical mind because I had already searched everywhere else and had not found what I was looking for.
And what were you looking for?
Good question. It started for me from age 17 from a spiritual awakening, surprising spiritual awakening, a retreat that my Roman Catholic high school offered. And that sent me on a quest. I didn't know it at the time. It sent me on a journey to find out, what is this? What is this reality? Why are we here? Who are we? What does this even mean? And temporarily, I found that answer through Christianity. But after several years of being a born-again Christian, and then I went back to my Roman Catholic roots, I noticed the cracks in the dogma. I had friends who were homosexual, and like, I don't think I'm going to tell these people that they're going to hell. I just, that doesn't feel right. I'm not going to say that. And my college roommate who's a Buddhist, nah, I'm not going to tell him he's going to hell. That doesn't, I can't wrap my heart around that idea that people who are not canonically, dogmatically within the fold are therefore damned. So I started to see the cracks in that dogma and found it unfulfilling, unsatisfying. And then anything else that I found, I couldn't reconcile my reason with the faith. There was always something lacking in the new agey kind of idea of law of attraction or manifestation. And it was far too woo-woo for me. I didn't ever find anything that I thought was solid, really trustworthy, reliable, a touchstone, something that you could point to and say, just do that, follow that, and you'll have a good life and everything will unfold for you. Because, for example, I already knew about follow your bliss, follow your excitement, do what makes you feel good, be authentic, be yourself, all these cliched pieces of advice. And I would get frustrated by that because I don't know who I am. I don't know what it means to be myself, to follow my bliss. What, should I go take drugs? That's pretty blissful. Smoke more pot. What does it mean to follow my excitement? I had no idea. And it would annoy me when people would give those cliched tropes as answers. And then I found the cards.
So how did you find the cards? Tell us how that happened.
I found them at a party in Brooklyn, where, of course, you find the meaning of your life at a party in Brooklyn. I love telling that joke that I went to India, I worked with shamans, Roman Catholic seminary, studied philosophy at Harvard, but it was at a party in Brooklyn that I found the meaning of my life, in a deck of playing cards, of all places to find it. And it was a casual introduction. As I mentioned, someone at the party just kind of walking around the room with a drink in his hand and a cigarette in the other hand, like, oh, it's your birthday, and doing like a parlor trick, like a kind of reading of people. But it resonated for me to know that my birth card is the 9 of Hearts based on my birthday of August 30th. And as I say, I think it only captured me because I had already searched everywhere else, really everywhere, through astrology and other esoteric systems as well. Nothing resonated, to answer your question. Nothing just grabbed me by the collar and said, yes, this is it. This is the answer. But even still, with the cards, I was skeptical, and it took a few years of testing it out to really believe that it was true. One of the ways that I tested it, I was single at the time. I had just gotten divorced. I live in New York City. I would go to local bars and, after a couple drinks, strike up conversations with my neighbors at the bar and just, let me ask you something. What's your birthday? And they give me a quizzical look, but they would usually answer. I'm like, okay, and then blah, blah, blah. And so your birth card is this, and it means this and this about your life. And they'd be like, give me one of these looks like, oh my God, you just told me the main theme of my life in one sentence. And these are skeptical, jaded New Yorkers who are not going to believe something just because you want them to believe it. It's got to really hit home. So I did this over time, and they would, hey, you got to come and talk to this guy. He just told me everything about my life from my birthday. Hey, you got to come and do this. And after doing that enough, I realized, wow, this really is something. It really speaks to people. It gives them something to help them see themselves more clearly. And so from that and other tests that I did, I started to realize, okay, I can trust this. It's not just a parlor trick. There's something profoundly true here. And then I started a professional practice to coach people, teach people their cards to play. And my family thought I was crazy. I'm a Harvard graduate, and now I'm going to do what gypsies used to do for a living. Just like, what? What are you doing? When are you going to get a real job? no, mom, this is my job. This is what I want to do now with my life. I feel a calling to teach this to people because it was so meaningful for me. It helped me figure out my life and understand myself and my life when I understood myself as someone born to play the Nine of Hearts. And I want to give that same opportunity for everyone.
Beautiful. So when you mentioned about the Nine of Hearts when we met before, I found that very moving, in the sense that it had really touched you and that made a difference. So would you give a little bit of an insight perhaps into, once you have identified your card,
Mhm.
what happens then?
That's another very good question. And it is a question I often get. What do I do with this? I kind of like, so what? I'll tell you my own experience was that it resonated deeply in my beingness of my life story. And what I hear from other people as well is that there's a validation that happens. It's like, oh, and I've been seen. Even though it's a card and it's a symbol and it's a pattern, there's a feeling and a sensation of I've been seen and I'm known and I'm validated and I'm not crazy. I didn't make this up. It's not random. It's not chaotic. It's not my fault. I can stop judging myself that my life looks this way. It's in the cards, but pun intended. It's in the cards. It's in the fabric of reality. It's in the design of reality. So there's a great sense of relief that happens, and it happened for me, and it often happens for people. And then what you do with that, once you know that, is you start to utilize it to make decisions for your life. And that's one of the ways that I tested it. I was single, I had just gotten divorced, and I said to myself, if these cards are accurate, if they are what I think they might be, then it means that if I choose a life partner who is in my life path, who is energetically a good match for me in the cards, then it should be true. What I found when I started dating, when I met the woman who is now my wife, there was a disconnect. Even though we're perfect in the cards, not in astrology. Astrology would say that we're a terrible match, but in the cards, we're a perfect match because you can do relationship dynamics in the cards as well. But I found that there was a lot of strange friction at the beginning. And I said, and this was another test that I ran for myself. I said, okay, either the cards are not accurate and my own guidance, my own felt sense of what's right is true, because I felt like it wasn't working. I would have broken up with her. It wasn't working. Or the cards are right, and I'm bumping up against my own deep, unconscious layers of conditioning and programming about what I imagine a woman should be and what I think dating should look like. I'm going to run a test and say that my hypothesis is that there's some unconscious programming that I don't know that's blocking this dynamic, and the cards are accurate. So I leaned in to the relationship, and lo and behold, it turns out all this stuff started surfacing in my past that I hadn't resolved, that I thought I had resolved from my dynamic with my mother, from my first marriage, et cetera, et cetera. And the cards really are accurate. So to answer your question, what you do with it is you make decisions. That's what you do with it. You use it literally as your map and your compass to make decisions for your life. Who's a good business partner? What business decisions to make? Personal decisions to make? Because every day we have cards to play. So as of this recording right now today, we're playing a 3 of diamonds today. So anyone born today would be born to play a 3 of diamonds. The rest of us are passing through this energy just for a day. So I've written a whole program called the Daily Game, which guides you each day how to play your cards right today. Tomorrow is going to be a 2 of diamonds, very different energy. And the decisions to make tomorrow would look different than the decisions to make today. It's subtle, but it is there and it is meaningful, and it starts to reorient the trajectory of your life because you're making these micro decisions and sometimes macro decisions that point your life into a more satisfying harmonic resonance for yourself.
Wow. So there are 52 cards in the deck, aren't there?
Yeah.
Does that mean that each card relates to 1 week?
It does. And right now, as of this recording, we're in a 10 of spades week, and that also means something. And then the 52 cards cycle through the 365 days of the year, so there are multiple birthdays of the same card. Then the distinction comes in with which astrological sign you're born into determines which is the planet that rules that sign becomes your planetary card, which is like your personality of how you show up. And so then there are different shades of gray, so to speak, different colorings based on the different astrological signs of the different birth cards. So when we spoke earlier, your birth card is the Two of Diamonds, and someone else may have the same Two of Diamonds birth card, but may have different other cards, different personality card based on their different birthday in the year.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Do you have any idea how the cards were developed? I mean, were they developed with all of this in mind? Or is this something that, or is it that someone has discovered the cards can be used in this way since they were developed? Do you
You're
ask?
asking good questions. I like it. I like talking to you. You're getting me to think with some deep answers. And this is a question I've reflected on very deeply for myself. Where the heck did these things come from? And I write about it in my book, the brief history of it, because there's very little known. They were deliberately persecuted and eradicated, and whole libraries in Alexandria, Egypt, were burnt to the ground. So very little is actually recorded of these cards. If we go all the way back to Sumerian myth in Mesopotamia, the oldest known civilization that we know about, in the Sumerian mythology, they talk about tablets of destiny. And at that time, there was no papyrus, no paper had been invented. So tablets, clay tablets or stone tablets would have been an instrument. And in the way that their mythology describes these tablets of destiny, they describe that anyone who knows how to read them will know how to read all the magic of life on Earth and will be empowered to understand how life is on Earth. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the idea. It's like, that's interesting that that's the way they talk about these tablets of destiny. That's how I would talk about these cards. Same kind of language as I've said already for you on this podcast, that if you know them, if you know what they mean, then your life can be magical. And the other interesting thing is that the Sumerians don't claim credit for inventing these tablets of destiny. They say they were a gift of their gods. Now, we're going to pull back the veil another level and say that my own conclusion there is that an advanced extraterrestrial race of beings gifted these to early humans. Why? Perhaps to assist in our evolution, to guide us on our journey on Earth. And that's what the Sumerians say, that the tablets were given to them by their gods to assist in their evolution on the Earth. I don't know. I don't have proof of that, but that's what I've come to think, is that an advanced race of beings, way more advanced than us, figured out how to map the quantum energy field in the way that our quantum scientists are only beginning to look at, to map the quantum energy field, to give conceptual symbols to energy frequencies. Everything is energy. Time is energy. Time is an illusion. We live in an eternal now. So tomorrow, the only difference between tomorrow and today is a different energy pattern. It's an energy frequency. So to have a card of the day, air quotes, is really a symbol of a different energy frequency. That's all it is. It's a conceptual symbol. So somehow an advanced race of beings figured out how to map the energy frequency of our Earth rotating around the sun and the wobble of the Earth on its axis, perhaps creating a slightly different energetic field that could be mapped and encoded and recorded in a conceptual symbol. And voila, we have what we've all thought was an idle game of chance, but is really an advanced tool to understand the nature and function and structure of our reality.
Extraordinary. It's always there right in front of us, isn't it? We've searched all over the planet, and then there it is in the kitchen where someone's cooking cabbage, whatever it is.
That is, with cobwebs, with weather-eaten, dog-eaten corners on it. But really, I also have come to realize that this, quote, deck of cards is none other than the book of life, the same book of life that the Bible references many times. Because in ancient times, books didn't have bindings. Books of the Bible written on scrolls and parchment, they were known as books. This unbound book of 52 leaves, which was known in ancient times, which depicts the seasons and cycles of life on Earth, well, what else is it? But it's a little book of our life on Earth. It's a book of life. So that's my own theory, that this is none other than the book of life. To buttress that theory, we can point to the fact that all of the pip patterns on the faces of the cards, the pips, the hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades, those are the pips. All of the pip patterns come out of the tree of life. And the tree of life comes out of the flower of life. So it makes sense that this would have been known as the book of life because of its connection to the tree of life and the flower of life. And the flower of life is the oldest known spiritual symbol we have anywhere on the planet. The seed of life is found cross-culturally all around the world. So if it's true, which I believe that it is, that this knowledge emerges directly out of the flower of life, then it is the oldest form of spiritual knowledge that we have on the planet.
So do you feel, it sounds to me like discovering something like this is one thing, and then deciding to turn your life over to bringing it into people's awareness strikes me as an incredibly brave thing to do. Did it feel like a brave thing to do, or did it, or what?
Beyond brave. Absolutely. It was incredibly risky. And I had 2 small children at the time when I made the decision. And I did what one should never do, which is I made a bargain with God. And I said, all right, I'll teach these cards. I'll teach this knowledge if you promise to take care of my children and make sure that they want for nothing. That has turned out to be true. My children are now 19 and 18. Through karmic blessings, my children have been completely taken care of, even though I have myself been homeless at times because I have not over the years made enough money from teaching this. I live in New York City, and it just hasn't caught on the way that I thought that it would. When I started in 2011, I was convinced that within 5 years I'd be on Oprah, teaching Oprah her cards to play, and this would be everywhere. And multi-million-dollar empire of card teaching, like someone like Eckhart Tolle or other spiritual teachers. It just hasn't happened. It's been very challenging. It's been a journey of faith and a journey of unseen helpers showing up to help, various miraculous stories along the way, which I can tell you if you want, or at another time we can go into the various different miraculous events that have kept me going.
Why don't you share one of them with us now?
Would you like one?
I can't let that pass.
Okay.
One of them.
Okay. So I'll see if I can condense it. I'll do the brief version of the story. This is 2012. I've been doing this for about a year, and I didn't have clients, wasn't making money. I put all my effort into doing a class, and I've rented a space at a local center in New York City, and I advertised heavily. And it was in January, and 2 people showed up to the class, and I was going to lose money on the class, let alone not make money. One of the women who were there, and there were 2 of my students there, and then 2 new people, 4 total, but only 2 new people. One of the new women afterwards, because I still taught the 2-hour-long class, dutifully gave the class. One of the women came up to me afterwards and said, I have a message for you. All right, well, I need one. Let's go. She said, I saw a playing card on the street, and then I saw your advertisement, and I knew I needed to come here and give you a message. Okay. So we went afterwards, and we sat in a diner. And long story short, she said to me, you need to give up the thing that you value most. Now, context, in my life path, my Saturn card is the 9 of diamonds. So here was another test that I referenced earlier. This was another test that I consciously ran. The Nine of Diamonds as my Saturn card means I do need to let go of what I value. So that was a really poignant message, and that told me she really was psychic. She wasn't just smoking my ass, whatever the expression is, because she was saying the thing that I knew was my teaching moment of my life, which is I need to give up what I value most. It's the Nine of Diamonds is my Saturn card. That's what that means. So I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and then it hit me that what I value most is my home. That's what I value most, and that I can provide a home for my kids. But meanwhile, I was going into debt. I was 3 months behind on my rent. I couldn't afford to keep my apartment. And here's this woman, total stranger, telling me you need to give up what you value most, and I couldn't afford to keep it anyway. So I made the decision, all right, if these cards are accurate, and the Nine of Diamonds is my Saturn card, then the way for me to learn my life lesson and elevate my life is I need to give up what I value most. Okay, I'm going to give up my home. So what I decided to do is that I would sublet it for the summer to help me get back on my feet financially, and I wouldn't be fully homeless, but I would give it up for the summer. Put it up for rent right away. Someone rented it. It's New York City. People are looking for places to live in the city. I was due to, I can't remember exactly, let's say May 1st. I was due to move out and give over the keys. The day before, oh no, let me back up. So I knew I was renting it. I was doing regular ayahuasca ceremonies at the time. That was my spiritual practice. I went upstate New York for my regular ceremony about a month after I had rented the apartment, and met a man there who I'd never met before, who was really interested in what I was doing, reading the cards. And after we got to talking, he said, it's a little bit of a crazy idea, but my partner and I, we have a big house on the Delaware Water Gap. And this summer we've been talking about how we want to create like an artist spiritual community, and we want to invite people to come and stay with us. Would you be interested in coming to stay with us this summer? Could I bring my kids? He's like, let me talk to my partner. It's like, okay, yeah, you could do that. You could bring your kids. I was working during the week, so that was going to be my weekend. So I was like, okay, I got a place to stay, bring my kids for the weekend. And I still but I didn't have a place to live during the week. The day before I was giving the keys, this is how life works. The day before, I'm sitting on the playground, and my kids are playing with other kids and other parents who I've gotten to know, and we're all sitting and chatting on the bench. And they went to Yale, and they were lawyers, and we have our Ivy League bonding. We're talking, and like, oh, we're going out to the Hamptons this summer, and blah, blah, blah. What are you doing this summer, Alex? And I decided to be honest. I said, well, actually, I don't know where I'm going to be living. I'm giving up my apartment for the summer, so I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing. And they did a little kind of confer among themselves, and they came back to me and they said, the apartment next to us is vacant. The grandparents rented it so that they could see the grandkids, but they never use it. Why don't you just stay there? I'm like, okay, thank you. So then I had a place to live for the week and a place to go on the weekends. And until they were teenagers, my kids just thought that we went to our vacation house on the Delaware Water Gap when they were 4 and 5 years old. It was only then that I told them what the real story was. But as far as they know, we were going to our vacation house with our new friends. And there's more to the story, but I'll stop there. To have that miraculous provision where a home and a vacation home were provided for me was another one of those tests where, like, okay, these cards are accurate and we can trust them. Even if it's scary and risky, we can make decisions in our life based on what they lay out for us, and then everything lines up for us. And my clients have seen it too whenever I've coached them. It is miraculous and serendipitous how things line up.
Amazing. Well, congratulations for having that work out.
Thank you.
Especially
It
with
wasn't easy.
young children,
Yes.
because that's like You're not just dealing with your own feelings about the children, you're dealing with everyone else's feelings about how you're looking after the children. I mean, there's so much going on, isn't there? So
Well, absolutely. And I want to be a good father for them. I don't want to be a deadbeat dad. That's why I made that bargain with God, where I said, you take care of my kids and I'll teach this knowledge. And through that and other examples, my kids have been fully taken care of.
amazing. So coming up to the present day, what are you doing with the cards now, and how are you working with people?
Well, thank you for that. Well, now I've joined forces with my wife. We're working together as a team. We like working together. We found that people appreciate the masculine and feminine balance together. She's a gifted healer. She often sees miracles in her work, like tumors go away, people are in the hospital, and all of a sudden they get better, things that are truly miraculous. She's a very gifted healer. And we work together with people to together coach them literally to play their cards right. It's a lot of fun to work together with her. And then the other part that is what I'm focused on is creating certification training and classes for people who want to learn how to do this for themselves. So that's kind of the two main things. And then the third thing is I'm creating an app where you can have it on your phone and you can look up your cards, look up your daily cards, and use it as to track your day and enjoy tuning in each day, finding answers and getting clarity for your day. It's been interesting. I'm like hesitating as I answer this question because there's so much to do with it. There's so many possible applications of this knowledge that I have gone back and forth at times. Do I focus more on the corporate executives to help them live their lives? My wife and I like to focus on couples, helping couples in their relationship dynamics. But mainly, we really like to work with people who want the work. I don't know how else to say it. It's people who want to have that fulfillment in their life where they're not satisfied with just okay or just going through the motions. It has to be for people who want the deeper fulfillment, a deeper soul satisfying reality like I had, where I wasn't satisfied with just, I'm going to be a successful corporate executive and do that. I want more to my life. I want that carpe diem experience of seizing the day and sucking the marrow out of life. So those are the people who we like to work with, and that's what we're focused on.
Fantastic. Well, I can only imagine it growing. And I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes it takes a while, doesn't it?
Mm.
To and if I may say, you know, as you talk about it today, you seem very grounded in it. I know you're saying it's still evolving, and of course it will be still evolving probably until you die, I imagine. Um,
Yeah.
but you seem very grounded, and I think sometimes when people discover something like this, part of the fact it's taking a while for things to happen is because we need the space for grounding, don't we? You know, and
You hit the nail on the head there. When I first was telling people about it, the feedback I would get from people is often, well, everybody thinks they found the one thing that is the thing that everybody needs to know. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is the one thing that everybody needs to know. Like, well, no, everybody thinks that. I'm like, yeah, I know, but this is the one thing.
yeah.
And for me, there has been, you're absolutely right, a process of embodiment and grounding and letting go. Like if people want to hear it, they're going to hear it. If they don't, they don't. It's been frustrating in the sense of like I thought more people would be curious and interested, but hasn't been. Not yet, anyway. Until I've met you and others like you who are interested. But this has been now 13 years down the road of me building the foundation, and perhaps it required me to become more grounded in this information myself.
Absolutely, yeah. Because people want to feel absolutely secure, don't they, if they start investing in something like this? They want to feel that the person is really very present in the work, or at least, you know, a couple of steps ahead of them,
Sure.
at least.
Sure.
So do the cards, would you like to, I mean, we're going to run out of time if I'm not careful, but let me just ask you, behind you, you've got all the cards spread out, and you said that's actually the tree of life.
Yes.
Would you like to say, I appreciate people listening can't see this, but basically you've got a big board behind you with all the cards represented on the board. I can't see them all at once because there's so many of them. But would you like to say something about that layout that you've got on there?
Sure. So I'll do my best to keep it non-jargony and not arcane. There are 52 cards in the deck. When they're laid out in a box of 7x7 or 7x7 grid, following the planets, the grid is Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, those planets, vertically and horizontally, with 3 cards left over, and then you have the 2 jokers at top and bottom. You have this layout. And then through a quadration, it's called, which is an algorithm, the cards are shuffled and dealt and then laid out again. Every year, a new layout, a new deal, that's where that expression comes from, that would show you your cards of the year, because you have a life path of cards and then you have cards every year. So they're laid out in this fashion, in this 7x7 grid, following this planetary sequence. When they're laid out this way, but only when they're restored to the sacred geometric proportions, which I did. I had the cards restored to that proportion. If you were to overlay them onto the tree of life inside of the flower of life, when the tree of life is planted in the garden, as we get from that biblical story, the way people often see the tree of life in the Kabbalistic tradition, they're seeing only the seed of the tree inside the seed. The tree hasn't yet been planted in the garden, air quotes. When the tree is planted in the flower of life, and you were to overlay this 7x7 planetary grid with the 3 cards left over and the joker at the bottom of the top, it overlays perfectly with the sphero of the tree of life planted in the garden. It's precise, geometrically overlaid. This is literally, these cards as they're laid out, this is the fruit of the tree of life, where again in the biblical story we're told, don't eat from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, where the tree of knowledge is the central nervous system, where if you can visualize the spine and then the brain, it is actually a tree in its shape, the spinal cord and the brain. It's the tree of knowledge. Don't eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge. By implication, we're told to eat the fruit of the tree of life instead, and that's how we will find life. In other words, if you're attached to your thoughts, as Buddha taught us, if you're attached to your thoughts, you're going to suffer. Don't eat from the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Instead, eat the fruit of the tree of life. And this is the fruit of the tree of life. These 52 cards laid out in this 7x7 pattern, overlaid onto the flower of life, then you have literally, again, the fruit of the tree of life. So that's what I have on this pattern.
Incredible. Wow, honestly, I could talk to you for hours. This is just fascinating. But I feel like if I did talk to you for much longer, I'd have to pay you, because it would be only fair, because you're...
Well, I'd be happy to come back on. I often have done multiple appearances because it is quite deep, this topic. There is a lot to say, and we've hit some highlights today, but I'd love to come back on if you'd have me.
Thank you. Great. Well, that'd be great. And it is very, very interesting, fascinating stuff. And I do hope that people listening to this and watching this will actually, some people listening to this and watching this will feel a resonance with this. And if you are feeling that resonance, please do reach out to Alexander. Go and check out his website, which I'll just say again what that is, thesourcecards.com. And just check it out. Don't let it go, because this is the sort of thing, as you mentioned earlier about the conditioning will allow us to just breeze on and not engage, even if we do feel a resonance. If you don't feel a resonance, forget about it. But if you do feel a resonance, go and check that out and maybe even talk to Alexander. It's been fascinating talking to you. We actually talked about quite a lot today. Has there been a favorite part of our conversation for you today?
My favorite part is the general flow of your questioning. I have by now done many of these podcasts, and I really appreciated your way of teasing out answers from me by the questions that you've asked and the flow of the questioning. This has been one of my favorite interviews.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Well, right now in this moment, this is my absolute favorite interview. Of course, in the present moment.
Sure.
People say to me, "Oh, Catherine, I want to check out your show. Which is your favorite episode?" And I can't answer that
Sure.
because everyone is so amazing. It's been such a delight having you on. And I would love to have you come back on and talk some more. It's absolutely riveting, fascinating information. So thank you everybody for watching and listening. If you are watching this on a video channel, please put a comment below. And because this sort of thing is interesting to discuss, say what you think. If you think it's bonkers, if you think it's fascinating, say something. If you like the kind of quality of conversation that's happened here today, and you think you might like to work with me, go and look at beingspace.world and do check out Alexander on thesourcecards.com. So thank you so much again, Alexander.
Thank you for having me. And one final word for your listeners. If you go to thesourcecards.com, you can enter your birth date and do a free reading on the homepage to find out your birth card and your personality card.
Incredible. Brilliant. And then you can put that in the comments. Thank you so much.